All right, everybody, this is Blake. I'm going to be the host today. So we are going to talk about the state of dev community. So if you're here for dev marketing, we are not talking about developer marketing. Let's take that and throw it out. Next up, let's get our seatbelts and let's fasten in. You've got three of the brightest people at some of the biggest companies in the world: Oracle, Gremlin, and MuleSoft. So we've got a really great panel of people today here to talk to us. Developer communities are exploding. This is not something new. These have been around since the 1990s. And so we are going to talk about developer communities today from people that are in the trenches. And so it's very, very exciting to have everybody here today. We've got some resources. I'll put the link into the chat so you can get that stuff. So this is Blake. Let me turn it over to the panel so they can go through, introduce themselves, tell you a little bit about their developer communities to kick us off. Up first, Mariana.
Thank you. My name is Mariana Lemus. I have been working for MuleSoft for about 3 years almost. I'm the community associate in our community program, also called user groups. So our main community program is focused on developers, technical personas, and architects. This is the best place to share knowledge, to expand their skills, and to network as well.
All right, up next, we've got Jason Yee.
Hey, thanks, Blake. So, hey, everyone, I'm Jason. I'm Director of Advocacy at Gremlin. We build a chaos engineering platform, and that's our community. So chaos engineering is the practice of injecting failure into your systems in order to see how they react. So it's a practice that's widely adopted. And so rather than focusing on a specific customer or user community, my job is to help build the community of practice. So that includes developers, engineers, everyone across the board. So trying to get people to practice reliability.
All right, thanks, Jason. Up next, we've got Todd Sharp from Oracle.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, Todd Sharp here. I am at Oracle, and similar to Jason, I am really good at injecting failure into applications, only mine is not intentional. Actually, no, I'm a developer advocate. I work with basically my focus is on the cloud databases. I am in the database org at Oracle, but do not really heavily focus on it. It's just always part of the story, very big part of the story, the center of the story nonetheless. But yeah, I work with developers, producing content, digital, written, any kinds of things like that, work with the community, try to take their thoughts and ideas into the company, all kinds of good stuff like that.
All right, great. Thanks, guys. And so for our first topic, the thing we probably hear the most is help, where do I even start? Imagine a scenario where somebody in marketing comes over to your desk or sends you a message and says, Eureka, we have a dev community. I just created a Slack workspace. If only it was that simple. So for all those here today, especially with the pandemic, right? So like when we get those questions in 2021, someone says, hey, I'm new to this role, working with the developer community, not marketing, working with developer community. Yes. Where do I even start? So let's hear from some of you, like those kind of tips and things like that. So when someone gets back into that driver's seat, they've got some actionable insights, tips on where to get going.
I can start. I think that having guidelines and documentary everything is really important because it can save you time, and also invest in a good platform. Because if you have a platform where you can publish your events, host their events, and get the data, you have everything in one place. And you can also help leaders for future events to get data as well. So I would recommend that. And also, when you are starting a community, that you need to, in our case, that we focus on technical people. We in the beginning, we were thinking that, okay, we need to onboard everyone because we need to grow the community really fast. But now we are in the stage that is better quality than quantity. So we are looking for leaders who really are the expert or really can share good knowledge to people who are starting in the MuleSoft ecosystem. So I will share that as some tips.
Yeah, I can jump in. And I think you know, one of the problems is this idea of tools, and having a great platform is fantastic. But I think when you're starting out, the first thing to do is just to understand what is it that you're actually trying to do, right? Especially for new people. Oftentimes I talk to people that are new in the industry and they're like, I got hired as a community manager or as a DevRel or evangelist or advocate or whatever. And it's like, great. Number one, you've got to figure out what it is that they want you to do, right? What are you supposed to be doing? Because inevitably people get hired and somebody in marketing has this idea of, I know what you're going to do. You're going to generate a ton of leads for me, right? It's like, oh, okay, well, if that's what you're measuring me on, I'm going to fail because that's not what I do. So starting out with that, right? What do you want to do? What's your goal? Does that align with what the organization's looking for? And that really will help you choose what the next steps are, whether that's tools, whether that's programs, anything else, knowing what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so to me, developer advocacy getting started, I think first of all, you have to have a deep technical understanding of technology, of languages, of programming. You have to have a technical background. I don't think this is something you can approach straight out of college. No offense, but I think you really kind of have to get your feet wet and have some sort of established history doing, because you can't really tell people how to do unless you've done it. At least in my experience, the best way to tell somebody how to do it is based on experience, right? The other thing is getting started, and I could talk about this all day long here, but I'll keep it brief because we have a short time here. You have to, for me at least, advocacy, you can look at it two ways. You can look at it as being an internal advocate and being an external advocate. It goes both ways, right? You are an advocate for developers to your company, and you have the responsibility or the privilege to take the developer perspective to your product managers, to your engineering groups, and explain to them what the developer wants to see. You also have that kind of evangelism aspect to your role where you're doing external, and you have to, obviously, like Blake said, like everyone said, make sure that you're not selling this as marketing or trying to be a sales pitch or anything like that. But you do have to evangelize and externally advocate for your company's products or for your community. So it's a two-way street, and I could go on forever. There's so many. I mean, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Put out as much content as you possibly can, just every day, every week. Have a list of ideas. I have a backlog of ideas that I keep in Evernote, just new note every time. Here's a concept, and someday I'll come back and flesh it out. Someday I won't, but yeah, I'll stop now because I could, like I said, I could keep going.
And people think that you need to be a social media expert to publish content, and you don't. You just need to try free tools, take advantage of that, and share content, as use poll question, create engagement, and then you will see it will spread the word and it will come bigger.
And eventually you end up creating organic advocates for your product through your community, right? We are paid advocates, but eventually you'll get someone or a few people so excited in your community that they start doing your job for you. And that's the best, because then you get to sit back and be like, yeah, that's my community. Yeah. They're doing my job for me.
You need to educate them.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No.
I was going to say, ultimately, that's what you have to do, especially, if you're in a large company like Oracle, like you probably, I don't know, Todd, what your team looks like. It's probably, you've got a bunch of folks. If you're in a small startup, or if you are one of those, as Blake mentioned, you're like the only community person and marketing comes up to you or something. If you're that person, scaling is huge, right? There's only so much content that you can produce. And so thinking about not only your community, how you can leverage it, how you can pull people together, how you can elevate their voices. We talk about like 10x developers and how that's like a load of hooey, right? Like you can't just work harder, you got to work smarter. And that means using your community.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Mariana. Go ahead.
Todd has so many information.
Let's get this one Todd t-shirt slogan down today. So one of the beautiful things that Todd says, right, is we are advocating for developers. We are not advocating to developers. It's such a simple but salient point, Todd.
Yeah, I think it is. And I think it's something that companies can lose sight of. It's a very, very important perspective. It's a very valuable perspective. And I think it's the core tenets that this entire DevRel movement was based upon, right? I think people saw the value of that, realized that there was a very unique set of skills, like I said, deeply technical, great communicator, not afraid to be on stage or to produce. And I think they see the value that's why people are paying, because we don't oftentimes, and I know this is a question we're going to get into later, but a lot of times we don't have actionable or quantifiable results in this job. We don't have metrics that we can say, look, I brought in X leads or I brought in X revenue. So it's very subjective, but at the same time, you can tell when the job's being done well, and you could tell when it's not being done well. If you're, and so it's tricky, it's hard to justify, but it's extremely valuable in my opinion.
Okay, great. And that's a perfect segue into our second talking point, which is going to be the biggest challenges in 2021. And it really, it's going to be two things here, right? So what I want to hear from the panel is what are you seeing as some of the biggest challenges teams are faced with, and how are you overcoming them? With sort of the two things. So the first thing, before we got into the pandemic, like the biggest thing the team said was their biggest challenge was engaging, scaling, and keeping everything fresh, right? Everything, you get to a point where it's just like you're throwing stuff against the wall. It feels like you kind of hit a stopping point. And so you got that, engaging, scaling, keeping it fresh. And then this other thing, in developer communities, developer world, in person, getting out to conferences in person was such a big part. Guess what? The pandemic totally changed that. So not only do we have this challenge of engaging, keeping things fresh, and scaling, now suddenly it's like we've got to do everything virtual. So I'd love to hear from the panel, like what are some of these challenges you're seeing on those 2 points, and what are you doing to overcome them?
Go, Jason. You have it.
I have a lot to say on this. Yeah, I mean, engaging, scaling, keeping things fresh is exactly what 2021 is about, right? I mean, we're on this and we've got a lot of energy and this is great. And I'm seeing folks comment in the chat. So we've got that engagement. But for anybody that's been on a virtual conference in the past 6 months, like, you know that they just suck. I mean, they're awful. Large conferences, conferences that have traditionally had huge amounts of people, they've got no one's chatting, everyone's dead. Everybody's like, if they're even on it, they've got the video off to the side and they're doing their work on their second monitor. And so it is that thing of how do you keep things engaging and fresh? And then how do you scale? Like, the scaling part has been the other issue is with virtual events. Before I could say, well, I'm going to be in Europe at this time, so I can't go and speak at that conference in Asia or somewhere else, right? I can only be in one place at one time. And now it's like, well, yeah, you can get up at 6 a.m. and be on a conference halfway around the world, and then a couple hours later be on a different conference and do multiple conferences in a day. And it's a great way to get burned out. But we're starting to have that pressure. So again, it's that idea of how do you scale? And so for me personally, a lot of it has been actually dialing things back, trying to focus on how can I build good content, get that out there. And sometimes that isn't going to all the conferences. I've been doing a lot of video work and other things. And again, thinking of scale, like how can I produce a piece of content and reuse it multiple times?
In my case, we had a goal of 15 events monthly in the past, where all the events were in person. And now with all the pandemic and the COVID hit, the leaders switched immediately to virtual, and we had the platform to do it. And we are having like 45 events monthly, which is great in terms of the community. But then the obstacle is like how you can network during the events. It's like that introduction, focus on the topic, and then Q&A, and that's it. People go to other things. And then also is we have a big community. Well, for me, it's big because we are a small team with bigger community of 300 leaders. So in community, we have technical people who need to evangelize about MuleSoft. And if they switch jobs or change location or get lost, it's hard for us to keep update with that. So it has positive thing and it has negative thing. But what we did in our process is that with this virtual competition between communities, and everyone was like, what are you going to do? Like everyone was getting crazy. We started figuring out, okay, this is our platform. This is an application form. Improve. We said, we create a series of video, how to or best practices. We automatize process. So this is the good part of the community. We did this that in the past we couldn't do it because it was not, it was not focused.
All right, Todd, I know you got some input here.
It's hard. It's hard. It's been a tough 17 months here. I'm looking at the comments here, and I've listened to what my peers have said here. I see one thing Carrie Carlson mentioned. Scaling the reach of content is where DevRel might consider actually partnering with marketing. And that is a good point. And I know I do talk down on marketing a lot, and I throw them under the bus a lot, but I love my marketing team here at Oracle. They are super talented. They have a very important role to play. It's just a different role than I play, but we do work together a lot. I've done some videos for them recently, and I continue to do it because they have some really talented editors and producers and all that good stuff. So they can really polish up my videos, whereas I might not have the time or skills to really make something look really professional. Other than that, I think the thing that's killing me and the thing that I'm really missing and looking forward to getting back to is being amongst the developers and amongst my community, making new friends, meeting new people, because they inspire me. They inspire me and they help guide me on what content I should be working on. Just talking to them, getting some ideas. But one of the things that I've been meaning to do all year, and I haven't really done as much as I should have, is putting the spotlight, turning it around, putting it on the community and showing what they're building, how they're getting through this pandemic, how their lives have changed, how their offices have changed, all these kind of things, putting a spotlight on them and making them be the focus. So that's one of the things that I do want to focus on. And that's one of my goals coming up here. But yeah, someone else mentioned in the comments, reusing content. One blog post or one blog series can be turned into a video series. It can be turned in, and I've done that in the past. That's a great idea. It's a great suggestion, and I highly suggest doing that. Just reusing your content, and then that doesn't mean it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad, it's not a knock. It's just reaching a different audience with the same message. That some people prefer to watch videos. Some people like webinars. Some people like to read. It's just everybody's different. So.
The series of video that we did, we had a handbook since the beginning of the community, and we create a series of video that says the same but is in a video. People start this like it's an alternative way to communicate.
Yeah, I turned a series of blog posts into a book. It was a 10-post series, and I published it, self-published it on Amazon. But yeah, it's a great thing to do. You could take these series of posts and change them. Some people like, and I even have a Kindle version, for people that like a digital version. So it's a great idea. Great thing to do.
Awesome, great. And one thing before we start to get into the Q&A, and they don't know I did this or going to talk to it, but one of the amazing things with Gremlin, with Jason, MuleSoft with Mariana, and Todd with Oracle, when I'm out there, like before the pandemic, especially when I'm meeting community members, I can't tell who the staff are from the community members. Like the community members are so passionate, like that are a part of their community, like the way that they're activating their community members, man, they are like these super passionate people that you're like, wait, do you work there? Like, no, I'm just a community member. You're like, whoa.
Yes, they are the best.
What y'all are doing. I don't know if you want to give like one little secret sauce, but the stuff you're doing for your developers is just truly amazing. So if there's some little like secret ingredient you can give people today, a little bitty tip, please share that.
I'll start with that. That's easy. Just be yourself. Talk to people, be genuine, be passionate. People can see that passion coming through you, and just be genuine. You don't even have to talk tech. Just sit down and have a beer with somebody at a conference, or engage with them on Twitter about a sports team or something. Just be genuine, be a person, and people will gravitate to that. I mean, it's just about making friends and having relationships to me. I mean, I get paid to be friends with people, essentially. It's my job is to hang out with as many people as I can and drink beer with them at conferences. I mean, I know I'm oversimplifying it and making it myself look bad, but essentially just be a member of the community. You can be a leader, and that's important and inspiring and all that, but just being a part of it is to me the best part.
Great, thanks for that, Todd. And then Mariana, Jason, any little quick points from you?
Yes, we have discovered members. You see my dog? Yeah.
Yeah.
Told ya. So we have discovered people from the community doing individual contribution. So one of our main pillars that we always do is recognize them publicly. You are doing well, keep doing, make them feel that they are making an impact. And the other thing is that become a friend, like you said, Todd, and make them feel that they can share feedback to you, because you need that feedback. You need to improve your community daily, so they know and they can help you organize better your community. So I will say these two advices.
Yeah, and swag, you can never underestimate swag. And like we have the Groundbreaker Ambassador programs where you recognize your biggest contributors in the community and give them, look at Blake, he's ready to jump on this one.
Yeah. I think for me, the one thing that I would add, and it goes back to Todd's mention about, most of us have a technical background and we're advocating for companies that build technical products. And so some of it for me has been, our community is passionate because the practice of chaos engineering has really changed how people work, and it's reduced, getting paged in the middle of the night for systems going down, and like seeing the value. And so some of it comes back to that, being honest, being authentic about who you are. And hopefully you're working for a company where you believe in the product that they're selling, that it is a good product, right? Like the reason that we got into this and we're not marketing is because we're not shills, because we're right. Authentic. We see the value of something and we're like, this is amazing for me, which means I think it's amazing for you. And that's all it is to it, right? And once people see that, it's exactly the same. They're like, wow, this changed my life or the way that I work. And they're excited to share it with others.
Yeah,
and if you're amazing.
Y'all are definitely
last thing.
I know, I was gonna say, y'all are definitely changing people's lives. Sorry.
Yeah, I have heard that. Hey, Mariana, being an ambassador in the MuleSoft community changed my life. Because of this, I built my company. I'm a partner. I'm like all these crazy things that you don't know. I mean, you are doing recognitions, you are doing your daily job. And when they say that, it's like, okay, stop. We're making an impact here. So it's nice.
Let me throw in one quick thing here, Blake. If you're a bigger company or even a smaller company and you have multiple products, multiple things that you are kind of working with in your community, don't ever be afraid to be genuine and admit that your product might not be the best solution for everybody, right? Because again, we're not sales, we're not marketing. We're not just shills that are telling people, oh, you should use everything we do because we're all awesome. Just be genuine. Just give your honest opinion. Sometimes you may not be number one. Sometimes you may not be number 5, but you're saying, hey, tell me how we can get there and I'll work to make it better. Because if I can make it better and then have it integrate with Oracle DB in a way that is even better than the competitor, then let's do that. So be genuine.
Great. And let's see if we can get in at least some of these questions before we get kicked off stage. So Lauren Clevenger at Big Commerce says, if you had to invest in one new DevRel program in 2022, what would you choose? Live streaming on Twitch, virtual user conference, virtual in-person hackathons, or something else?
I would pick Twitch. I think that's an untapped resource that I think has a lot of potential that not many people use other than like very few content producers.
I will pick hybrid. This is where we are working for the next year to be able to offer both hackathons and meetups, everything.
Yeah, I would, I don't know. That's a tough question for me. I think people are starting to get burned out on video stuff like Twitch. There's only so many hours during the day. I'm really interested now in starting to get into shorts. You know, TikTok, YouTube's got shorts. Like, what can we do that's just super quick, that's inspiring and informational?
Wow, love that. And then we get a question from Lily Lee. Do you have specific examples of something programs you've done that really resonated and enabled the devs in your community?
Mariana?
Yes. I always have an answer. Maybe it's not the best, but I always have. Recently, my team created the mentors program. So it's like a triangle: meetup leaders, mentors program, and ambassadors. And the mentors resonate really well because these are the people who want to become an ambassador, but they need to contribute more. So it blows the social media. So it's an example.
All right, and we've got Hola Madrid, Valentina back with us. So it looks like we are ending the near of our DevRel panel today. Huge thanks to everybody at CMX and especially to Valentina and to our wonderful panel, some of the most amazing people. Don't forget to connect with them. Jason Yee, Gremlin, Todd Sharp, Oracle, and Mariana Lemus with the Muleys, AKA MuleSoft.
And big shout out to you, Blake, at D-Zone for moderating.
And you tuxedo.
Yeah, in his very famous tuxedo, which we're all talking about in the chat. We should do it as a giveaway, as a swag giveaway. I think it should be a thing. Maybe put some socks in there as well, because I know Blake is all about socks. Thank you so much to you all. I know there was more questions. As Blake said, connect with everyone through the DMs or on the social media. And yeah, we're going to be back in a very few minutes. But I did do it. There's some really fun little filters and things like that. You know, who doesn't love a virtual photo booth? That's it from me. I'll be back in a few minutes where we'll be talking about rethinking advocate programs. So I'll see you in a little bit. Bye, everybody.
Ciao.
Thank you.